New Year's resolutions are hard, but saving money is easy with SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, but if you got credit card debt, you can get rid of it just like that and skip your next two house payments. That's right, no payments until April at SaveWithConrad.com. The team at Save with Conrad are routinely helping families just like yours save $5, $6, $7, even $800 a month. Find out how much money you can save for free at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 32416. Equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.
Deletion! My skin's dying because you're under it. I'm done lying to myself for this, for all the wonder and believing that it's making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as obsolete.
Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, presented to you by the Ad-Free Shows Network and Podcast Heat. I'm John Alba. That guy right there coming to us from the Hardy compound is the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. What's up, man?
Just hanging out, man. It's a beautiful day here at the Hardy compound. How are you overall at the Alba compound?
Tired, man. Tired. These SNY commutes, they kill me. They kill me, but it's okay. We're having a good time. We're having a good time. I have my phone in my pocket when I'm on air, and I was watching it back last night, and you just see my pants start moving because you called me right as I was finishing. And normally it'll be like my friends who I tell, like, don't call me, and then they'll end up calling me. So I was like, which of my friends is trolling me right now? Like, oh, it's just Matt. That's fine. I'm not going to get mad at you about that. So
what's so funny is that, like, I was running around. We ended up staying. We stopped. We got something to eat, and by the time we got back and everything else, it was all said and done. I got everybody to bed, and I was like, oh shit, I need to call John. It's so late. And then I called, and I was like, oh, he's probably doing the show right now. That's what I said when you didn't pick up. So
it's totally cool. It looked like you guys had some fun seeing some dinosaurs, and
yeah, it was very cool. It was, a Dino World and whatever version it is. It might be called something different. But actually, we got the invite to go as long as Rebby would make a video and film everybody. And It was kind of like a promotional thing. They actually open up in the next week. So we get to see it solo, just our family in there and the crew. So that was very cool.
Very nice. Very nice. That's awesome. Love hearing that. I saw you guys did a little group cheers, too. Evie seemed to be all in on that.
Yeah, she was. She kept saying after she's going, cheers, dada. And she's been doing this new thing where she calls me daddy. Cheers, daddy.
Oh,
cheers, daddy. So I never know what I'm going to get. I don't know if it's going to be dada or daddy.
She could call you ho-ho. That could be worse. So
well, I guess so. I guess, but in her mind, it would be a positive, because ho-ho is a very generous, kind man.
That's very right. Another generous, kind man, Josh Fields, is watching us right now. Says,
there he is. What's up, Josh? It's another delightful day, my friend. Good to hear from you, Josh. Thanks for joining us.
If you're watching on adfreeshows.com, you get early access to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy and live taping as well. Matt, we're going to talk all about Cody Rhodes this week. There's a lot to dive into on Cody Rhodes. I know you've got some good insight on working with him over the years, but we're going to own in on WrestleMania weekend specifically because you and I are headed to Philadelphia for the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy live on stage on April 5th. It's a 4:00 start time. Tickets just $25. It's going to be one of the cheapest wrestling events in town WrestleMania week because we want to give a gift to the wrestling fans. You're going to see Matt Hardy on stage talking all about the TLC years, the iconic TLC matches, all 4 of them, keep in mind, not just, 3 if you count the initial ones right off the bat. But Matt, this is going to be such a special event. I'm so excited to dive into this on stage with you. What can people expect with this live show?
I am too. I love talking about TLC matches because I feel like TLC, more than anything, it's like how we made our mark on the wrestling business. And it's something that I created along with my brother, along with Adam and Jay, along with Bubba, and along with Devon. We created this concept called TLC, tables, ladders, and chairs. And it became a staple of not just WWE, but of pro wrestling in general. TNA had their own version of it. All companies have done some versions of TLC, but we are the forefathers of that movement, and we started that. And a lot of that started because of myself and Jeff's work on the indies. Also got to credit the Dudleys. The Dudleys were the guys who always broke tables in ECW. They really had the tables established as their weapon of choice in the TLC, TLC weapons. But, myself and Jeff, we were constantly going through tables and using chairs and doing ladder matches and very unique and creative and, different ways that have never been done before on the indies, which a lot of this stuff's never been seen. But, we knew if we ever got the opportunity to do that on a big platform, that we could make it into something special. We got the opportunity to do the tag team ladder match with Edge and Christian. It became magic. We did the tables match with the Dudleys. It became magic. And then the TLC match was born. And you are going to hear stories. I'm going to tell stories that I have never shared before. I'm going to talk about the interactions of all the competitors in the match, how we put together the match, what our goal was in these matches, how we kept trying to up the ante, and we raised the bar every single time to try and top what we did last time, which became very, very challenging. But it is going to be such a fun night. Not only are you going to learn things that have never been shared about TLC before, you're also going to have the dose of nostalgia that is going to be exhilarating. It is going to be intoxicating. You're going to love revisiting those times because it was such a special time in pro wrestling and WWE.
Yeah, we're going to start with the triangle ladder match, which is why I said there's 4 matches, because even though that's not technically a TLC match, for all intents and purposes, it is. And then there were 3 official TLC matches between that crew, which was, of course, TLC 1 at SummerSlam 2000, TLC 2 at WrestleMania X7, and then TLC 3, which also included Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit in it. And we will talk about that match as well, because that's the match that, outside of the podcast we did on it, which you can find in our archives, extremehardy.com, hasn't been covered great in depth over the years from people. So this is going to be a night you do not want to forget and miss. It is going to be April 5th, 4 o'clock Eastern at the downtown Philadelphia Sheraton, where WrestleCon is. So if you're going to WrestleCon, just stick around that day.
You're there. You're there.
Right, exactly. It's not included with WrestleCon admission. However, if you are a WrestleCon super fan, you will get the event for absolutely free. And Big Money Matt is totally content taking something for free. So he will be living that up. Tickets can be purchased at MattHardyLive.com. Again, that is MattHardyLive.com. Just $25 for general admission. There's going to be a Q&A. We're going to have some special guests. Don't miss this. Our live events are some of the best live podcasts out there. Yes. Everyone walks away having a great time. And we guarantee you, on this busy WrestleMania weekend, if you are in Philadelphia, this will be one of your favorite events that you attend. So do not miss this. Anything else you want to say on it, Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you were talking about Big Money Matt, and sometimes Big Money Matt would charge a wee fee, but legitimately, we wanted to charge a wee fee to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy Live stage show, because everybody's going to be spending a ton of money during WrestleMania weekend. Everything in the wrestling industry, everything in the wrestling universe is going down in Philadelphia, and we wanted to offer the best price ticket of any event possible, and it's only $25, and you'll have an amazing experience. So just keep that in mind. We're taking care of you because we're only charging a wee fee.
That's right. That's right. These are very interactive live shows. You will have a chance to have your voice heard, and you never know what else may go down shenanigan wise. So
you never know who will show up.
That's true. You never know what can happen in the World Wrestling Federation and the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Yes.
MattHardyLive.com. Get those tickets today. Okay, Matt. So a couple news items I want to hit on before we roll.
What? There was news going on in the pro wrestling world this week, John?
Not kidding, man. Whew. Never ends. The past 3 years, the news cycle in wrestling has just been on another level. Like, ever since the pandemic, it's just been one thing after another every single week. But we do have a few things I want to get to before we talk about Cody. Number one, Sting is an AEW Tag Team Champion. Him and Darby Allin beat Big Bill and Ricky Starks. And we know that Sting's last match is coming up in about a month's time. Certainly looks like it's going to be against the Young Bucks at this juncture. But getting some tag team gold on the way out, man. How do you feel about that?
I was very happy to see that. And John, you tweeted something earlier this morning, and you put it's nice to see Sting treated with such respect on his way out as he finishes up his career, something along those lines, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you. I think Sting is one of the things that AEW has done the most right. I love the way he has been treated like the icon he is, like the legend he is. I love the respect that has been shown to his utilization. And I think him winning the tag team title, I think it sets a great story up too for in this last match. If he does go against the Young Bucks, Sting and Darby, that is, do they lose the titles? Do they retain the titles? Do the Young Bucks end the streak of Sting in AEW? It's a very intriguing scenario. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really like the story of the Young Bucks being the self-indulgent EVPs who want to put Old Yeller out of his misery. I think that's a fun pro wrestling story to tell. Like, again, you could have had them face a team like FTR, for example. Okay. And FTR are amazing and they honor history and wrestling of yesteryear. But with that, it would have been hard to build a really heated story because you know how much they respect history. The Young Bucks are spitting in the face of history here and saying, we don't care about any of that. We want you out. We run this place. And I think that's a great story to tell. And the championships being on the line, was it necessary? Probably not. But it adds a little extra level of intrigue with it, too. And I thought Sting getting that moment with his family celebrating him holding the championships, that was just a feel-good wrestling moment, right?
It does. I mean, Sting and Darby, they're baby faces. FTR, they're baby faces. And we don't need a babyface first babyface match for this occasion. This is Sting's last match. We want to go out on a high note. We want him cheered to the maximum, while he's out there. And the Young Bucks are the guy to do it. They're in this new deal where they're EVPs that are, serving their own self-interest, obviously. And they're going to go out there and the crowd is going to be booing the shit out of the Bucks. They're going to be cheering for Sting and Darby, and it's going to be the perfect environment. Heat is important in pro wrestling. Storytelling is important in pro wrestling. And especially in this moment, in this final match of this icon, Sting, you want all the heat possible. And you need a story that sets a definitive good guy, Sting and Darby, versus the piece of shit bad guys, the Young Bucks. And we have that story set up. So yeah, I'm all about this, man. And heat is important in wrestling. We can't forget that. Pro wrestling is much more than just great wrestling matches.
And you're building up those moments in the match where Sting is going to be taking the heat, and then eventually that comeback is going to happen. And who better to feed into that comeback than two guys you really want to see get their faces punched in, right? Like, that's pro wrestling. That's how this stuff works. So I'm all about it. I think it's a great pairing. And what people have to remember too, Matt, this is the match that Sting wanted. Like this match would not be happening if Sting didn't want it.
Of course. I mean, yes. I mean, this is 100% his wishes, no doubt.
So you have to look at it that way. Coach Rhodes says, "Good morning, Matt. Missed seeing you last night." He was there
yes,
in Arizona. He says his homeroom says hi. So he's streaming the podcast to the youth of America. Good choice there, Rosie.
Outstanding, Josh. Thank you, Coach Rosie. I hope you had fun last night, and I hate I didn't get out there to see you, buddy.
Matt, anything you'd like to say to the youth of America who are watching right now?
Do good. Do right. Because we need all the help we can get. We need the youth of America to step up because we need America to continue as it is. So please, youth of America, step up.
There you go.
Please, Coach, continue to be a good role model to these kids.
Coach Rosie is a good role model for those kids. We also got Josh, who just had pretty intense knee surgery, saying just got all clear on his knee after 5 weeks. Congrats, man.
Outstanding, Josh. I love to see it.
Appreciate all your support. Josh, one of those guys, he went to his doctor's appointment this week, and he was wearing an Extreme Life of Matt Hardy shirt, which, of course, Matt, you look down there if you're watching on YouTube, you see there's that QR code, boxofgimmicks.com. You purchase your Extreme Life of Matt Hardy merchandise, Matt Fact, Matt Fiction, the spoken Matt Hardy. There's so many great merchandise. Go pick that up right now, especially as we head into the spring season. Always want to look good. T-shirt season's my favorite season. I know you have a plethora of T-shirts.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big T-shirt mark.
Yes, Josh. All the Joshes here are Team Hardy. We know that very much so. Josh is a popular name with the Extreme Life lore. Matt, another very interesting story that came out of the wrestling realm this week was Scott D'Amore
Oh,
parting
yeah,
ways with TNA. And
very
Scott
much
was
so.
a
Even
huge.
before I hit on this, John, I
Sure.
just wanted to mention I also thought the Hangman Swerve match was
Oh,
excellent.
yes. Please go
Uh,
ahead.
I got to fully watch that back, and the way it was very subtle, but towards the end of the match, you could see there had been kind of a flip in who was white and who was black, who was good, who was bad, who was the heel, who was the babyface, and just the way that Hangman refused to give him those 5 more minutes to have a true number one contender. All Hangman's goal was to keep him out of the world title match, but then the match gets turned into a 3-way match. I thought it was an excellent match, really, really good stuff. So I enjoyed that as well. I definitely want to add that in because
Of
I thought
course.
that was very
No,
strong on
I'm,
Dynamite.
I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it. I was going to tee you up on one other AEW note in a second here, but we can talk about Scott in a minute if you'd like to. Also
Yeah.
want to, pardon me, give a shout out to Bobby too. Well, hell, Bobby, good to see you.
What's up, Bobby? There he is.
So we could talk on this AEW note before we get into more, but AEW Big Business, March 13th in Boston. I was looking at the font for the event.
Mhm.
Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, Andrew Zarian reporting that this is Mercedes Moné's debut. I know you don't know. You're out of the loop. You're waiting to find out. But hypothetically,
I don't know, but I would bank on it.
No, there you go. Hypothetically speaking, Matt, if Mercedes Moné were to come in, what do you think she does for AEW?
I mean, it's going to definitely boost the women's division, without a doubt. I mean, she's one of the top women in the world. She has a huge, loyal, dedicated following. So yeah, it would be a big deal. It'd be a huge boost to the women's division.
Does Mercedes coming in? I asked Eric Bischoff this on Strictly Business. Is she a top 2 star in the company? I know being a star is subjective, but the way I look at it, WrestleMania main eventer, legitimate crossover audience. I mean, she was in Star Wars, for crying out loud, and had a sizable supporting role in that. She is one of, as you said, she's cultivated one of the most loyal and diehard fan bases of any pro wrestler out there. If she comes into AEW, the way I see it, she's a top 2, top 3 star in the company, and maybe one of the biggest acquisitions that Tony's ever secured.
It's a possibility, I guess. I guess we'll see if it does happen. If it is Mercedes Moné, if it is Sasha Banks, when she comes in, I'm very intrigued and interested to just see how things work. I'm going to let it play out. And see, John.
And it's also a WWE acquisition that Tony would be getting in their prime. That's not to say anything against any of the other WWE individuals he's brought in, but she's 32 years old. She's a couple years removed from main eventing WrestleMania. It's a pretty big deal bringing in someone like her. And if they do it the route they did with the CM Punk thing, where they didn't tell you that Punk was debuting, but everyone kind of knew he was debuting. Right. I think it's going to create a really nice moment. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's get to the Scott D'Amore thing. Scott's someone you know very well. You've worked quite closely with him. Terminated by Anthem. It sounds like Anthem is moving into a different financial direction. This coming off the rebrand that got a little buzz going for TNA. A lot of TNA talent spoke out in support of Scott after this, Matt. You have anything you want to say?
I was shocked. It definitely caught me by surprise. I mean, because after the Broken Universe stuff and myself and Jeff left TNA, there was a bit of a period they went through where, Jeff Jarrett was running it and then eventually kind of was shifted out and then it ended up being Scott D'Amore. But just towards the end of Dixie and towards the beginning of Anthem, there was just a lot of people in the company that didn't think the company was going to survive. Fans forever have thought TNA was going to die and going to go away, but much like Matt Hardy, it will not die, right? But it had kind of like really diminished itself, through some of the decisions that were made. And I feel like more than anyone, Scott D'Amore was the guy that like stepped the fuck up, took charge, and he made TNA into something that was like a credible product again, that had people interested in it. And there was such great intrigue when TNA returned. They had a great event that night. There was a lot of buzz around TNA. I know you said it had a little bit of buzz, but I think TNA actually had a lot of buzz, especially considering the valleys that they kind of went down through,
Sure.
to get back up to this peak, to like have some people talking about them.
I mean, I know he's someone you've interacted with a good amount personally over the years. Anything you'd like to say about him as a leader and as a person?
I've always enjoyed Scott D'Amore. We've got along great. The times I've worked with him, he's been good. He's been great. I actually shot him a text, just interacted with him a little bit and shot something back. So, I was definitely caught out of left field. It definitely surprised me. I did not expect to hear that. I did not have that on my bingo card for sure, that Scott D'Amore was going to be gone from TNA.
What kind of value do you think he would add to any other company who'd want to bring him in potentially?
I mean, I think he would add great value because he's a very passionate fan of wrestling, and he's worked on many different levels business-wise. He has an understanding from a talent perspective. He has the understanding from a managerial perspective. He has an understanding from an office perspective, from a management perspective. So he has so many different perspectives in his pocket. He has so many different things he's done on his resume. So yeah, he would be hugely beneficial to someone, I think. Once again, I don't know all the details. Who knows if more details emerge? You never know in this day and age, but we're at that point where there's so much information out there, and the way technology is and the way people cover stories. Usually if there's details, they will emerge, so we shall see how this all ends up. But at the end of the day, I was very surprised to hear Scott D'Amore was leaving TNA.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't leaving. He was let go. So we're gonna have to find out what ends up transpiring.
And actually, terminated is the word that I think that I saw that was utilized. But
yes,
I was not expecting to see Scott D'Amore being terminated by TNA.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people did, and I think the vocal outpouring of support that you saw from people was pretty significant. Matt, we're going to talk about Cody Rhodes on this week's episode. It is February 8th as we record this. Tomorrow will be February 9th when all this drops. It's Super Bowl weekend, my friend. There's a big WWE press conference that is going down as we tape this, so we will not have definitive outcomes, and there will be some speculation from Matt and I that could be a little out of date by the time you listen to this, unless you listen on adfreeshows.com, in which case it won't be. But it could be out of date a little bit as Super Bowl week. WWE has a presence there. Who you got for the Super Bowl, man? 49ers and Kansas City.
Well, apparently in the spread, they have San Francisco up by a couple points.
It's about a couple points, yeah, -2, -2.5.
But in my opinion, in the court of public opinion, I think that the overwhelming favorites are the Kansas City Chiefs, just because of the Swifties. I mean, it's just this crazy, insane movement that's going on, right? So I'm gonna cheer for the underdogs, who are predicted to win, but I call them the underdogs in the court of public opinion, and that would be the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, all right, interesting take that you got there. Listen, one thing I do know is that the Super Bowl is full of wild and wacky bets. There's prop bets, like people are putting money on whether or not Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift after the game. I always like hearing how long people think the national anthem's going to go. But we want to help make your Super Bowl Sunday your best betting experience yet. And that is with our pals over at DraftKings and the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Are you looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into 200 instantly in bonus bets. Like I said, -2.5 as we tape this, the line right now, San Francisco. That's a tight game, Matt Hardy. Either way you look at it, they are expecting a good one. So if you're going to make bets here, you want to make sure that you have the absolute best foundation underneath you, and the DraftKings Sportsbook app is going to do that for you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HARDY. New customers can bet $5 to get 200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code HARDY. The crown is yours. It's going to make your Super Bowl Sunday a little more intense, though, don't you think, Matt?
I do. And just think about this, John. All you got to do is bet $5 and you can win 200. What a deal. Use that code HARDY. Everybody get signed up now. Let's do it.
That's HARDY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. What's one Super Bowl Sunday snack you need at House Hardy, Matt?
Guacamole.
Guacamole. Okay.
Guacamole.
Okay.
Big guacamole guy.
Okay. Well, Coach Rosie says he bets that you will have 2 snacks. I don't know.
There you have it. Who knows? Maybe so. Maybe I'll have some celery, some radishes.
Ugh. Come on, man. Like, what
I knew you would sign at that.
It's a cheat day. You're allowed to cheat. It's okay.
There you have it. You don't get down to 208 cheating all the time, John.
Hey, congratulations, man. You look good. You're feeling good. I love to hear that. It's great to see. All right. Cody Rhodes. Synonymous with WrestleMania season right now at this juncture. Been a lot of discourse over the booking of Cody Rhodes, and there's been some fan, what's the right, I guess vitriol would be the right word, towards what has been happening on the WWE creative end. I mean, WWE couldn't ask for a better distraction from what has been going on the executive end. This has been pretty crazy, Matt. Cody wins the Royal Rumble, comes up on Friday Night SmackDown last week, starts making you think he's going to challenge Roman. He says, I'm going to take everything from you. I'm going to take that championship. I'm going to tear you down, Roman Reigns, but not at WrestleMania. And then The Rock comes out, and that seemingly sets us up for some sort of collision again. This is before the press conference where things might change after we tape this, but a lot of discourse, man. What do you think about it?
All right. I know we got into the Cody episode and doing that, so I don't know if we skipped this or not. So I'm going to go ahead and change it on the fly.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm an asshole.
It's okay, John. It's okay. I like doing this, John. It's that time, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it in. And I'm putting in a new Matt fact that I just came up with right here and right now. And here it goes. Matt fact: Matt is enjoying all this Cody, Rock, Roman drama.
Okay.
We're just calling it out there, brother.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just, again, the news cycle's just killed me. Okay. All right. So you're enjoying it. You're enjoying the drama.
It is. It's very intriguing. And obviously we are taping right now. It is Thursday afternoon. There's this press conference tonight, and I'm sure there's going to be some big details. There's going to be some big things coming out of this press conference coming up tonight. So I don't know what it's going to be exactly, but what I am thinking is that this Roman versus Rock match is huge. And for a casual audience, for a, to try and like reel in new eyeballs, this is a good call. But for the diehards, and especially the Cody Rhodes story, which has been going on for 2 years now, 2 years, keep in mind, it has been that he has to finish the story and he has to win that title. And that title has specifically been Roman Reigns, WWE Undisputed Championship. So they kind of back themselves into a corner here because like the diehard fans let them know how much they are invested, how much they want this Cody versus Roman match, but then there's this larger than life mainstream match you can have in Rock and Roman, which, Rock, let's not kid ourselves. He's one of the biggest movie stars on the entire planet right now. He is a huge, huge deal. And this is huge press. And there's going to be a lot of new people that would tune in to watch WrestleMania that probably wouldn't watch it otherwise if Rock is in this match. So I think tonight at this press conference, they are going to start successfully figuring out a way to like button up this story. John, as you'd said, retcon. They're going to, they're going to retcon a story into this that makes the most feasible sense where they can make everyone happy and they can top all the loose ends, hopefully in one weekend in one WrestleMania. That's my guess.
So based on what you're saying there, sounds to me like you're advocating for Roman Reigns to main event both nights.
I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that at all.
And I think Cody, the next you do Roman, or vice versa.
And I think that's something that they could do. If there's a way, maybe they could act like Cody was just baiting Roman for a trap with The Rock, but then like Roman accepts this match with The Rock tonight, and he goes, "Oh, I knew you were going to do that," so that's going to happen on Sunday. On Saturday, I'll see you because I'm cashing in my winning Royal Rumble to wrestle you for the title, and then somehow he's locked in, and he is forced to be locked in because Rock is now a boss. He's a young buck EVP, and he forces him into both of them. And I don't know, once again, I'm spitballing when I say that, but
sure,
I think they're going to come up with some sort of conclusion to kill two birds with one WrestleMania.
We're going to talk in the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, nonetheless. We're going to talk more about the
great.
We'll talk more about Cody's journey here, but this is immediately at the forefront of everyone's mind from the creative standpoint. Matt, my issue with it, and you're someone who cares a lot about quality storytelling in wrestling and paying off long-term stories and character journeys.
100%.
While I totally understand the allure of a Rock Roman match, something that has been teased for many, many years, and is no doubt the biggest marquee match that you can do, the idea of Cody, who has made his entire character on the last 2 years based around finishing the story and beating Roman Reigns for the championship on the biggest stage possible, for him to go out there and voluntarily, after securing the right to be able to do that, to voluntarily just give it up, severely undermined the big babyface character here.
But the one thing I'm saying, John, I understand that may have been the original play. I mean, did he voluntarily give it up? Because he did say, he said, "I'm going to take everything from you at Roman, just not at WrestleMania." I mean, he didn't say like, "I'm giving The Rock my Royal Rumble win. I'm giving him the match."
But the whole culmination of it, I mean, he has gone on record and said at WrestleMania, this needs to happen. At the end of the Royal Rumble, he points to the WrestleMania sign and then points to Roman Reigns. Like, if we're a casual fan, if we don't follow this program, if I'm someone who tuned into the Royal Rumble because I know my friends say the Royal Rumble is a fun event every year, I don't know much about wrestling, but I'm tuning in and I saw that visual of him pointing at the WrestleMania sign and then Roman Reigns, I don't need to be a genius to know, oh, that's who he's going to be facing at that show. So they did pull this pivot here.
No, they did. Believe me, I think too, John, it was broken, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's unfixable.
Because it's early, but
I understand, and there's a ton of credibility in what you're saying. I don't disagree with you.
I know you don't disagree with me.
But because I would have definitely. I would have put that thought in. I mean, I would have known like this is a huge match, Rock versus Roman. But if we pull Cody out of this and we don't follow through with it, while these people have been rallying behind him all throughout the year, especially after last year's loss where he probably should have won, but he's all throughout the year they've been rallying around Cody. He's as close as you get to like a John Cena, a Stone Cold, a Hulk Hogan, right? He is their guy right now. That is the babyface of the brand, and they have to account for how much the diehards love Cody Rhodes right now. And I don't think they accounted for that, and then once they saw the reaction come out the next couple of days, they're like, whoa. And now I think they're trying to correct course.
But it's not even just that. Like, here's my point. If you wanted to do Rock Roman, why have Cody Rhodes win the Royal Rumble in the first place? Like, just don't have him win it. Have somebody else win it, because then people know, well, okay, at least on the onslaught, Cody didn't earn the opportunity to wrestle Roman at WrestleMania in canon here, right? Like, he didn't earn it. He didn't win the Rumble. Right. And then there's another story you could tell about Cody falling short of achieving his goals because he wanted that opportunity but didn't get it. Instead, you gave him the moment that set everything up, and now you're veering into a circumstance where you're trying to piece together these different story beats that don't align. They're not cohesive. They're not coherent. And it's a shame because it's taking away from a match in Rock Roman that people have wanted to see for a very long time. I mean, you've gone on the record, Matt, many times talking about the quality of person that Dwayne Johnson is and how much he cares and loves his stuff. You got to imagine for him, this has been a very odd scenario, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum, right, John? I did, saw those quotes that were circulating around too, where Rock said he doesn't care if he's cheered or he's booed as long as it sells tickets or whatever. And I can see him being of that mindset without a doubt. But I just think, John, in the famous words of Chris Benoit, even with Cody winning the Rumble and then them changing things very rapidly and kind of setting up Rock versus Roman, in the famous words of Chris Benoit, 2 a.m. in Germany, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I think there was very much like people were thinking on two different mindsets. I think maybe there was some people in charge that said like Rock versus Roman, that is our match. But then the other people that were kind of like working on the regular day-to-day plan said, okay, Cody wins the Rumble. Cody goes on to WrestleMania and wrestles Roman, and we finished the story. And then I think we had like these two different stories because there has been a lot of changes, obviously, in WWE over the course of the last few weeks, right? So there's probably some wires crossed and whatnot.
Well, and then it's like, if we are in that territory, Matt, then we're talking about people who have no wrestling experience, no wrestling creative experience, making like product altering decisions going into one of the biggest events of the year. And that's a story in and of itself.
It is. And once again, you're not wrong. In all this stuff, you're not wrong. I think the way they got here wasn't good. I think there should have been a more solid, everybody on the same page plan going forward, but there wasn't. But where we are now is where we are now. And we've heard the loyalists of the WWE and what they've said. And we know this big match that we've teased, and now you got to kind of come through with that. Now I'm really looking forward to seeing what the WWE's response and what their solution is going to be in the situation they've got themselves into.
So first off, Aaron says Rock hasn't been hated this much since '96. They were doing Die Rocky Die chants.
Yeah.
But as we're taping this, The Rock just went on Pat McAfee's show.
All right, breaking news.
And he cut a promo on all the Cody crybabies out there.
All right. So he's embracing it. Okay.
Could we be seeing a heel Rock emerging here out of all this? Can you imagine that pivot?
I don't mind it. I think Rock's best is a heel.
What if Cody has to overcome both The Rock and Roman Reigns in one match? That would be, I don't know. That's something. But
yeah, I mean, even if they lock him in and there's a Rock versus Roman match for head of the table, the tribal chief, and then maybe somehow that turns into a three-way and he's in there. Maybe you do it one night. Who knows?
Who's to say?
I don't know. I just think, once again, John, I think if all the parties are willing to work together, I don't think this isn't unfixable.
Salvageable.
I think this can be salvaged.
Yeah. But it's a testament to
not the Cody crybabies. Oh my God. Not the Cody crybabies.
Rosie says, either way, the pop from The Rock was no way close to the decibels the Hardy Boys had when they all surprised us at WrestleMania 33.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Coach Rosie. My man.
That's exactly it. No, but either way, it speaks to this greater conversation in pro wrestling where sometimes, Matt, and you've been on the other end of this a few times in your career, you just have to run with the hot hand sometimes because you never know if you're ever going to have the timing or the place ever again to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just reality. And we talked about it at length with the MJF and Adam Cole thing that was not supposed to be a long-term partnership between them. But it was so palpable that you had to harness that, right?
Sure.
we could be in a similar situation with Cody, where if you don't harness it at the right time, and there's just so much talent out there, could you see a scenario where they just straight up miss the opportunity to elevate Cody to being the John Cena of this era?
I mean, that would be a shame. that would truly be a shame. But I also think, John, as you said there too, like being aware that you're in those moments when you have an organic story going on, and if you can be aware and cognizant of how each of the players is evolving and changing and how your fan base sees them, that is something that is very, very important. And once again, it's kind of shocking that they didn't realize there would be this big backlash from pulling Cody from the WrestleMania main event, which there obviously was. But now that you said that Rock was on the Pat McAfee thing talking about the Cody crybabies, I mean, that right there already shows a lot of promise, and that gives me a lot of hope that they're going to go through and end up doing the right thing in this deal.
Unless Rock is just going into business for himself and just crapping on the fans, which he could be. Who's to say? You know, he's a big star. He's got nothing to lose. So we'll find out, I guess, on how we will let it play.
But I also think too, Rock is very much a strategic guy.
Very.
And now he's in the office. He's in management. He's going to do what's right for the greater good, I think. You know, and he's cool playing that role. When they say that Rock doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference if he gets booed or he gets cheered. I mean, that's how you have to be. There's too many wrestlers that have the wrong mentality when they go like, oh my God, like if the people online don't think I'm good, I've got to do these cool moves, or I've got to do this, I've got to do that. If they don't put me over on X or Twitter or, you know, on Facebook, then, oh my God, they're not going to think I'm a good wrestler. Like, man, that's the wrong mentality. You have to see how they judge you, and then you lean into that, and you have to relinquish your fear of being an asshole if you're going to be a heel, and you can't be afraid of that. And that's something that is one of the bigger problems with this current generation nowadays. They get afraid to be booed, to have people talk shit about them online, you know, on social media, whatever. But you can't, because that's part of the gig. You were supposed to be hated.
That's what made Rock break out into superstardom, is when he leaned into being a heel back in 1997 and completely changed himself. And that's where his confidence grew into becoming who we know him to be today.
Right. And anytime you do lean into that and you're a heel and you relinquish that fear of being an asshole and you go full-fledged asshole across the board, whether it is, you know, just on TV, on your product, on social media, whatever the scenario is, when you lean into that and you build momentum as a heel and you get booed and you're like legitimately hated, there's going to be that diehard fan base is going to go, wow, he's got me. He's really good. He's really good. And you're ultimately going to get a big babyface run out of it. Always.
Look what's happening with Swerve right now in AEW. It's
right.
Very much the same. And he's about to become a big time babyface on that program, in my opinion, at least. That's certainly how it looks like it's going to be playing out. So we'll see on that. But I want to talk more about Cody and his journey to this point, because you've talked about on this podcast that he's someone you got to know a little more in AEW. And you were around when he came into WWE super, super young. But he comes into WWE back in the mid-2000s having to carry quite the legacy. Not just his brother Dustin, who, of course, had a great run as Goldust and is a legend in his own right, but he's the son of a plumber, Dusty Rhodes. Perhaps one of the greatest babyfaces in the history of wrestling, well known as a stellar booker throughout his years too, and a character developer, the godfather of NXT. Those are heavy expectations. When Cody came into WWE and started through that training process, what do you remember your first impressions of him being, and how did he handle some of those pressures that came with being the son of Dusty Rhodes?
I mean, he was good. He handled those pressures well. And once again, it is living in the shadow of a legend, an icon that is your father, like Dusty Rhodes, is not an easy gig. You know, there's a lot of guys who have not been able to overcome that. These second gen guys that get into the business have legends that are larger than life and are truly icons and living legends. You know, so it's a tough gig. But you could tell Cody was raised in the business. He understood the business. He had traveled with his dad before that, and he really had a good grasp on what was going on, and he knew what he needed to do to kind of carve his own path. And I would imagine even any interaction with Dustin did that as well too, because I think when Dustin, stepped out and did Goldust, which was that androgynous character when it first happened, and it was so different, and people were like freaked out, like, oh my god, like this is the natural Dustin Rhodes doing this. Oh my god, what has McMahon done? He's going to ruin him. But I think Dustin did himself a big service by doing that, showing them he could be different. He didn't have to be like his father. He didn't have to be like a Western cowboy, redneck, common man, whatever. He did something totally different, and he embraced the shit out of it, and he rolled with the bit, and he got it over. And Goldust did. It got over as hell, man. And I think that was a true credit to Dustin and his actual talent and his ability and his willingness to think outside the box and try something different. So I think that was a big deal for him. And I think Cody knew he had to do something kind of different from his father to make things work too. And I know he went through several different things in the WWE over those years that he was there during that first run. But Cody has always had the ability. He's always had the mindset. He's always had the work ethic. It's just getting him into the right spot. And now he is in the right spot more than ever.
What are the differences between Cody and Dustin as people that you've noticed? Because you've known Dustin forever and have gotten to know Cody better over the years.
They both love the business. They're both very passionate. They're both hard workers. They're both very driven. And I love it whenever I see Dustin, like you said, I've known him forever. I'll see him, and we'll talk about how old and beat up and cranky we are. It's fun, and we have that deal. And I love it when he goes out there and he still kills it. And I love the fact that he can go out there and still have a hell of a match and like get people on their toes and like make the audience excited. It's so much fun. I think the difference, the biggest difference between them, I would say, is that I feel like when Cody started this movement, along with the Bucks and Kenny, he really adopted a leadership role. I think more than anything. And he felt very much like a leader to the newer people that were coming into AEW throughout that time, where I feel like Kenny was kind of focused more like on the women's division more than anything else in the beginning. And I feel like the Bucks, they were there to kind of help out everybody, but they didn't really flex, that they were EVPs or their leadership roles in real life, at least they didn't flex. But I feel like Cody always kind of like, hey, like, what can I do to help you? Or what can I do this? How can we make this better? How can we, get you more over? How can we make you more money? I feel like he really, really embraced the role of a leader. And I feel like Dustin wants to step up. He'll help train people. He'll help people with their matches and stuff like that. But I feel like Cody believes he is a leader. And I feel like he's even has adopted that now that he has returned to WWE, since he was on fire. And he almost wants to be the leader that is like the face of the brand when it comes to WWE. And, the fans aren't necessarily disputing that. The fans are pretty much behind him in a very solid way.
You think he picked up a lot of those attributes from Dusty?
I would imagine so. Yeah. I would imagine he picked up a lot of those attributes for Dusty. And I would also imagine God, to have a genius like Dusty Rhodes as your father to give you advice. I mean, that guy's done everything in the business, and he is someone that did not have the physical look that really became a star in that day and age, but he had the charisma that allowed him to overcome all that. So he obviously knew what he was doing. I mean, he was a very, very smart pro wrestler. He was a smart entertainer, and he was also a smart business guy. So yeah, that Dusty being the father of both Dustin and Cody helped them both out greatly.
Was Dusty on your radar a lot as a kid?
I dug him. I was a fan of Dusty Rhodes. I enjoyed the stuff he did at the NWA. I was very intrigued. I remember being very intrigued when he came to WWE with Sapphire and he was wearing the polka dots. And I was like, huh? This is very different. But I did not expect it. It threw me for a loop.
But there's a great lesson to be learned from that I'm sure Cody applied, in that Dusty was given that basically as a rib, right?
Yeah.
Cody has been satcheled with several gimmicks during his career that were not going to present him in the most favorable light. There was the mustache gimmick. He turned the whole face mask thing into something, and then obviously Stardust. But they almost made him more resilient, right?
Of course, it makes you more resilient. I mean, and I say this all the time: pro wrestling, in 90% of pro wrestling, is making the most of whatever you have to work with. Sometimes it's excellent material. Sometimes it's not such good material, and you have to make the most of it, whatever that material may be. And I think when you look at that, and you look at a dashing Cody Rhodes, or you look at Stardust, that shows Cody would go out there and he's like, okay, well, this is what they've given me, this is what I have to work with. I'm going to work as hard as I can to get it as over as I can. And that's really all you can do in pro wrestling, and that's the mindset and that's the mentality that you need. And Cody does have that mindset.
He leaves WWE on his own volition. He steps away.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves Alexandria, as you would like to say.
Yes.
He goes out and tries to have this massive, massive indie run. Cody kind of defined that idea that a WWE guy could go on their own choice and try and paint themselves in the image that they'd like to. How influential do you think that decision was on the wrestling landscape that we see today?
It was influential. I mean, they when I say they, I'm including Cody, who Cody was kind of doing his own thing. And I loved what he was doing when he was like crossing companies, whether it be TNA or Ring of Honor or, just several different major independent companies that he worked with, whatever. He kind of was just like an old school working on the road, hitting every major show, right? That's kind of what he was doing in that mentality. That was kind of his mentality during that period. But I think once he met Kenny and the Bucks and they vibed and they said, hey, like, we both have aspirations of being the best we can be, but what if we're not allowed to be the best we can be in this ROH or in this TNA, speaking for, Generation Me? What if we don't have the ability to be the best us that we can possibly be? What if we started something ourselves? We started a movement where we would allow ourselves to have that potential to be the best us possible. And I think once those, brains started turning, I think that's what made a difference. And I think that is part of that movement that will really stand the test of time. When you had the Bucks, when you had Kenny, and when you had Cody, and they were challenged to sell an arena 10,000 seats, and they took up that challenge and they did it. And at attendance there was Tony Khan, someone who financially obviously could back a promotion. And then the rest is history. Then on to AEW, and then finally they bring a legitimate rivalry to WWE for the first time in quite a while. So that was a big deal. And Cody was kind of, Cody was the guy that kind of started that in many ways, because he decided to step out of Alexandria, which is a safe zone. Your check's going to come on time each and every week. You're going to make good money. You're going to be taken care of. You're going to be on the biggest, product and platform in the world if you're on their programming. But you can step out and you can get outside, and it's a little harder to like build yourself up and survive. It's not as easy to survive as it is in there. But if you are willing to bust your ass, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to give 110, 120%, you can make a name for yourself. I've done it. Several people have done it. Cody was a glowing example of doing it at that time. And then Cody started that whole trend. And then once he met up with Kenny and the Bucks, that's when it went to another level, and those guys became something special, especially selling out the first All In and then going into AEW. And then just think about it. AEW wasn't here. Think how different the industry looks right now without AEW. What if AEW didn't exist? The industry looks very different right now.
And that's why I'm saying it's so amazing that Cody is where he is right now in WWE, because the effect that he had on the industry as a whole will be greater than anything he ever does in WWE. It's radically much larger And you talk about All In. I mean, that was 10,000 people in an arena based off of a response to a tweet. And
Right.
from that Cody responded to and took the challenge on. And imagine how hard it must have been to just even get in the building that night to see all of these indie stars. It was unparalleled. I know you were in WWE at the time, but how did you feel about All in general?
I mean, I thought it was amazing. It was destination viewing for me. I wanted to go out of my way to watch it. Was very excited for the Young Bucks. I've been friends with them for a while, right? You know, I didn't know Kenny then. I was excited for Cody. I knew Cody then, not as well as I do now, but and more importantly, more than anything else, like I give a shit about what happens to the industry. And just having, you know, one company and a monopoly is not good for anybody. And I don't want that. I don't want that for young people that are like Matt Hardy, that have this larger than life dream and aspiration to, you know, attain a career as a pro wrestler and like live out their fantasy as this living, breathing superhero, which is a pro wrestler. The more companies that are out there that are successful, the more kids like a young Matt Hardy that are going to get that opportunity. So that's very important to me and will always be important to me.
And putting 10,000 people in an arena, like I said, tough ticket to get. But if you had Game Time for All In, you knew that you'd find a way into it, because Game Time is your one-stop shop to get those last-minute tickets at your hands. Use that promo code Hardy and get $20 off your first purchase. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to that next big show. Game Time is going to make that process so much easier for you with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Matt, WrestleMania weekend, we've already talked about how we're doing our live show. You know there's going to be a lot of other events that fans are going to want to be a part of. How's Game Time going to help them out?
Whatever event you want to go to, if you don't think you can get in, if you're worried about getting a ticket, your best case scenario is to go to Game Time. You look for that ticket, ask them for that ticket. You're probably going to get a better price. You're going to know exactly where you're sitting, and they take care of everything in one stop. It's one-stop shopping, because when you buy tickets from Game Time, you don't get charged these extra fees. You don't get these sneaky hidden charges. No, it's one and done. And that's why we love Game Time here at the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
You're not probably going to get a better price. You're gonna, because with the Game Time guarantee, you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and the same row for less money, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, wrestling, theater, comedy, and so much more. And with zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Hardy for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Hardy, HARDY, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And John, thank you for pointing that out, because there is no problem with Game Time. With Game Time, you are always going to get the lowest price. That is a math fact.
There you go. Certainly is. I want to ask you about Cody's AEW tenure, because he's figurehead of the company. People forget this because Tony Khan is so prevalent and upfront. Cody was the guy who was doing all the media for AEW when it launched. Cody was doing the press conference calls. Cody was doing the interviews. He was the face of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Right away from the onslaught, he takes himself out of the world title picture with his feud with MJF. He loses to MJF, and per his own stipulation, he can never challenge for the AEW World Championship. It was a divisive start to the Cody character in AEW, and he was maybe the most popular guy on the roster at the time. What do you think of that early go there in AEW where Cody made a decision like that, and how do you think it affected ultimately his character trajectory in the company?
I think Cody was trying to be the bigger person. And I think Cody was trying to set an example, saying, like, sure, I'm in management, I'm in booking, but I'm not going to make this show about me. I'm not going to book it around me. And I think it was his effort to try and guarantee, especially the smarter fans in the AEW audience at that time. They're like, hey, I'm not going to book myself to become the world champion here at AEW. So he voluntarily took himself out of that. But I think at the end of the day, that it was very handicapping because he was a critical player. As you said, one of the most popular guys. And there were going to be people that were going to rally behind the Cody Rhodes character, and they wanted to see him on top. And even if that didn't happen, against the champion at that time, there was going to be champions down the road that he could have programs with where they could have made more money. It could have been a compelling rivalry. It could have been compelling matches. I think it was a bad decision. I think there was good intent behind it, but at the end of the day, I think it was a bad decision, which really handicapped what Cody could do as being a premier player in AEW.
I mean, you watch wrestling to get behind characters who you think one day might be world champion. That's a huge part of watching the program in the first place. And him leaving WWE was because he felt like he was never going to reach that next level in the company at the time. So going to this new company that, yes, I understand, like you said, there was good intention behind what he did, but he put a limit to himself instantly by doing so. And fans, through proxy, were never going to view him as world championship caliber then, because he quite literally made the stipulation that he couldn't challenge for it. And it created a really messy situation, I feel like. When did you feel like the court of public opinion started turning against Cody, the character in AEW?
It was, I mean, you would always feel it here and there a little bit in certain arenas, in certain markets. But I feel like towards the end, before Cody left, I felt like that it kind of reached a point where there was no real turning back.
Do you think any of it was salvageable?
It could have been. I think that stipulation would have needed to be reversed.
Yeah. I always thought if he just went heel and was like, screw it, I'm an EVP, I get what I want.
Right.
Which would have been very young Buckian of him. I feel like they could have salvaged that. But again, it was beyond creative. It was a much bigger situation. You said you got to know Cody much more during your AEW tenure. What did you learn about him that you didn't know prior?
I think I realized he had a great mind for pro wrestling. He also has a great mind for the business behind pro wrestling. Once again, some of that is probably just inherent from Dusty, obviously. But I was with him during those pandemic days, and after the pandemic, we'd come back to the hotel. Tony would have all the food for people. Guys would like hang out, eat, socialize. There was a lot of brotherhood going on. So there were a lot of nights, following a show of doing AEW Dynamite Live or, recording AEW Dynamite for the following week, where I would hang out with Cody and different guys. And guys got really tight. It was such a tight-knit group at AEW at that time. And I got to spend a lot of time with Cody in Jacksonville, which was wild. But I thought he was a great guy. He was really passionate about pro wrestling. He was really passionate about AEW. And you could see he, once again, adopted a leader role, and he really wanted the young guys to succeed as much as they possibly could.
But you said that you learned he's a great wrestling mind. What did you learn about him that gave you that indication? How does he view pro wrestling? Through what prism?
I mean, I think he sees pro wrestling very much from a business standpoint as well, as far as things that succeed. I mean, looking back and even like looking at this issue, like I'm sure Cody Rhodes goes like, wow, Rock versus Roman is a big match. And that would be a great match to have on the show to like bring in a lot of eyeballs that are like outside the regular audience. I'm sure of it because he gets that, you know what I mean? He's not like in a wrestling bubble, like, well, the people on, Facebook and Twitter, they really love me. So if you don't like put me in this match, people are going to be mad. That's not the mentality he has. But I could see where he would work with younger guys. Like I remember out there talking with Brian Pillman Jr. at one point about maybe things that would work when he was doing his tag team with Griff Garrison and whatnot. Like he would take guys under his wing. He would try and give them advice, like little, bits and pieces of things he'd learned throughout his years, especially from starting in the beginning like a rookie. He really stepped up and took a leader role in AEW behind the scenes. And I feel like that makes it even more sad that stipulation was put on him, because that limited him so much and it limited the success he could have in AEW.
How deeply involved was he in that creative process during your tenure in AEW?
He was involved. I would say Cody was probably, the majority of his involvement was his stuff at that time.
Okay.
The majority of the Young Bucks stuff was their stuff, Kenny's, his stuff, and the women's division, the girls. So I think those guys were a lot more active on creative for like the first few months of AEW. And I think things changed at some point towards the end of 2019. And then Tony Khan ended up being like the sole creative guy when it was all said and done. Those guys kind of like fed in, and they kind of like took charge of their own careers and their own stories more than anything.
I mean, it was so bizarre how Cody went from so beloved to hated at the end of his AEW run. I mean, the dude put himself through a flaming table for fans. His back literally got lit on fire, and they still weren't coming around to it. What do you remember the consensus being, if there was a consensus from people about Cody's departure from AEW?
I think a lot of people were shocked. A lot of people thought he wouldn't leave, considering it was a company that he helped start. And he was definitely the, what the ignition of AEW started, with their first All In event. So I don't think people expected him to leave. But then I think at the end of the day, when he did leave, I think people were like, whoa, and I think the people who liked Cody and appreciated Cody, and Cody tried to help them, I think they were all, they wanted the best for him, and they wanted to be happy in whatever he's doing going forward. And, and that's kind of how I've always been with people. Like, I don't do this tribalistic, company bullshit, whatever, AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, whatever it is. Like, if someone is your friend and they're doing good somewhere, like, be happy for them. Who cares where they're at? Be happy for your friends. Be happy for your colleagues when they're doing good, especially those people who've been good to you.
Do you think Cody can be a John Cena level star?
I mean, I think of all the people currently now that are baby faces that are in the running to do so, I think Cody is probably the best option.
Do you think Cody could have been that in AEW?
Yes. I mean, I think he could have been if he was utilized in the correct way. But also, one thing that is a little tougher, one thing I can openly say, just because I have been affected by it. I mean, the AEW audience, we play to a smarter, more knowledgeable audience at AEW than WWE does. WWE is trying to do a casual audience a lot more. So I feel like that is in Cody's favor, considering it's more of a casual audience, that they're not jaded, they're not fickle. The AEW fans, they very much can be jaded and fickle, because they love their diehard wrestling, and they love it a certain way. And once they decide that this is what they think about something, they're usually stuck on that. And they're just, wrestling is more important than the story. Where at WWE, the story is more important than the wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, but this is a good point from Aaron too. Cody booked himself as a John Cena of AEW, and he never wanted to turn heel. And it started to backfire a little bit. So I guess for me, it's more through the lens of, here is your undisputed top star who's going to represent you as a crossover and everything. And he's going to drive tickets. He's going to drive merchandise. WWE, I think, just because of the promotional machine there, that alone will be a huge help in getting him there. But it does circle back as we wrap things up here. It does circle back to our initial part of this conversation of right time and right place. Do you capture that? Do you harness that at the right time? Right. And they're in a really precarious situation right now, Matt, where it could go either way. It really could go
Right.
either way. And we got a couple Ask Matts here. Josh asking, does Cody need a title to stay over or more to finish the story? Then titles won't matter as much.
I mean, I don't think Cody necessarily needs a title to be over, but I just think they have harped on the story about him finishing the story and becoming a champion, that you have to close that out. And then after you do that and he has his run, then it's not a big deal. He doesn't really need a title because he's going to be over on his own. But I do think now that you've kind of put that out there, right? That he has to finish the story, and that's gotten over, and that's a phrase that everybody in the wrestling industry knows right now. So yes, he does have to win that title at some point.
Aaron asks, when Cody does finish the story, does Matt hope that he has a long reign, or does that matter? Because that's a really interesting question, Matt. A lot of times in wrestling, it's about the chase, and Cody has been chasing for a really long time, but it's not like Dusty Rhodes had 2-3 year long title reigns, it's very different when you're the baby face. How do you feel about that?
I don't think he needs a long run. I think he just needs to have a good run. He needs to have a good run, a successful run, great matches. And then, as a babyface, he just gets screwed out of the title. And then he's okay. He's still going to be over. You'll give him something to fight for, whatever. I think it's very interesting. They're doing this like monumental Roman reign when it comes to length, so I can't foresee anyone having a reign as long as Roman, whoever the next champion is.
One more from Aaron here. Does Matt ever see Cody coming back to AEW in the future?
I got to tell you what, man, in the wrestling business, never say never. That's the only way I can answer that. I mean, who knows? Anything is possible. Anything can happen in the pro wrestling industry.
In the All Elite Wrestling Federation. I'll tell you, I always envisioned that Cody would be back in WWE. I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought it was possible that he could go back to AEW after his in-ring career's done and take the reins back over there. But with all of the circumstances kind of changing in WWE right now, I honestly, Matt, very candidly, if Cody doesn't choose to pursue acting or I think Cody could be a politician if he wants to be, truthfully. If he doesn't pursue those paths, I really do believe that he's the next Paul Levesque. Like, you saw him at that Royal Rumble press conference in a situation where Paul Levesque struggled to answer a tough question. Cody gave a great answer that represented the company very, very well. And he has the Nightmare Factory, the training school. Mm-hmm. He has a creative mind. You described all of this just before.
Yeah.
Could you see a scenario where Cody, and this is all just speaking hypotheticals here and me looking down the line, but could you see a scenario? Does he have the intangibles to become a leader like that in a company like WWE?
He does. Why so? Yes. I mean, as you said, like I kind of went into it on detail earlier on. I mean, not only does he have a great mind for pro wrestling, he has a great mind for business, and he gets the business aspects of things. Something I remember Vince always said, like, I hate wearing the suit, but you got to wear the suit. He said, you're supposed to be a role model for everybody else that works here. So, I don't like wearing suits, but I wear the damn suit. I mean, even like that, Cody always dresses nicely. He always wears a suit, and it always reminds me of Vince saying that one time about how he said he's not like a fan of suits, which I don't necessarily buy. I think he kind of got off on dressing in suits, but like, he has the look, he plays the part, and he can actually perform the part as well. Yes. Do I think he could be someone that is an influential booker and someone who's a talent scout and like put all the different pieces of a wrestling promotion to the right place? Yes, I do.
If you want a bold prediction that we can look back on 15 years from now, Matt, when your skills have completely deteriorated.
Yes.
And the young Hardys are in the ring as tag team champions.
Yeah. I can't wait till that day.
I think we can look back on that and see a scenario where Cody is the guy in WWE. He's leading the way. I really do believe that.
So when King Maxwell was really over, when we were doing the Broken Universe stuff, right? There was a point where we were doing an indie show and Cody and Brandy were there. and Cody was holding Maxwell for a second, and he snuck a pic. And I said, "Oh man, that's cool. That's cool. You took that pic. Like, if you post that, man, let me know or whatever." He said, "Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. It's not gonna be weird." But it was cool because he thought that was cool. That, like, King Maxwell was legitimately over during all the insanity of the whole broken mat stuff. So Cody, whenever you're booking, brother, up north, make sure you take good care of Maxwell and Wolfie and Barty, all right, and the Gothic baby. Get him a good spot, brother.
Cody once told me that he is a huge mark for the Gangrel theme song, so maybe you'll get Vampire Baby in WWE at one day.
Oh, there you have it. Yeah.
Could happen. The true Gothic baby showing her presence there. He's got good taste, as you know. Yeah. I'm a mark for anything Gangrel, especially the Gangrel. Man, I listen back. Here's a good plug, guys. ExtremeHardy.com. Go through our archives. Yep. The other day I had a long drive. I just threw on our podcast archives and I pulled up the Gangrel episode. And the moment where he's talking about Luna and he's saying how Luna got him all the heat and, you know, nothing that he could do was crazy enough to match Luna's crazy. And you start saying, I think we might have something in common. And you just hear your wife in the background who's listening and goes, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
All-time great. Yeah. Extreme Life of Matt Hardy moment. Go check that out. Ugh. What a gem. What an absolute gem. I had COVID at the time. I think I coughed my lung out. Just how funny that was. Great stuff, man. Anything else you want to say about Cody here?
No, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for this this story. I'm excited to see how I really am excited to let it play out and see how it does play out and see how creative they get with it. And I'm really excited to see what the ultimate result of the WrestleMania weekend is going to be when it comes to Roman, Rock, and Cody.
Well, we are going to be there WrestleMania weekend. If you're going to be there WrestleMania weekend, we want to see you April 5th, downtown Sheraton in Philadelphia, the WrestleCon Hotel, MattHardyLive.com or WrestleCon.com. Pick up your tickets now, just $25, guys. It's going to be one of the cheapest major wrestling events of the entire weekend, and we made it cheap because we want people to be there. We want everyone to have a chance to experience this. Matt is going to be telling stories from the TLC years, all 4 matches, the Triangle Ladder match, TLC 1, TLC 2, and TLC 3. It's going to be a must-see event, Q&A, special guests. I love doing these live shows so much.
Too. They're the best. They're the best.
They really are the best. And you can help us by purchasing a ticket or leaving that 5-star review that Matt Hardy loves so much. You can also get on board with us, advertisewithhardy.com, promote your business to the extreme, get it out in front of thousands of listeners every single week here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. It's one of the most listened to wrestling podcasts in the world. We want you on board with us. Anything else you'd like to add there, Matt? We did not have a House Hardy cameo on this week's episode, which is remarkable. So
it is remarkable. Yeah, my wife's running a tight ship out there. And I'm getting ready to cut out right now because it's time to take the kiddos to jiu-jitsu. It's time to take Wolfgang and Bartholomew to jiu-jitsu to have them work on their basic wrestling training. It's a wrestling starting kit.
Outstanding. The words have been spoken. We'll see you next week right here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Delete!
My skin's dying because you're under it. I'm done lying to myself for this, for all the wonder and believing that it's making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as obsolete. My skin's dying.